All right, good evening. This is what I have to say to you guys. All your dreams come true by mastering yourself. All your dreams come true by mastering yourself. So I'm going to, and that's with money, success, whatever success means to you, relationships, whatever that means to you. Success in every area comes by mastering yourself, your thoughts, your habits, your actions. Those are all the things that will give you the desires that God has put in your heart. He put a desire in your heart, but even when Adam and Eve were in the garden, he's like, hey, your job's to work the garden. So there is a dream that's inside every one of us. And it does take some work and some digging, just like building a crop. So I'm going to recap. Part one, we talked about relationships with ourselves. Are we our biggest cheerleader? Are we loving ourselves? Are we treating ourselves with honor and respect and support? Starts with us. If you do not have that foundational base with yourself, it's going to affect your relationship with God, which is why Adam and Eve, after they messed up, they were hiding. God already knew. They could have come to God and said, oh my gosh, we messed up. What are we going to do? So part two, we were talking about the spiritual side of relationships and our relationship with God. How we view God impacts how we see other things. If we view God as a very legalistic entity that is just waiting for you to mess up, you can have a very different life than if you believe God loves you and wants the best for you and is rooting for you and wants to come alongside you and wants you to have a great life. So part two had to do with our relationship with God. And today we're talking about our relationship with others. Now, the name of the group is Spiritual Money Mind Shift. What does that have to do with others? Well, when it comes to money, we get money from other people if you're working a job. When we have money, we give money to people like cashiers or a banker or whatever. We give money to people in exchange for a good or service. And although money is intricately a part of our lives, our relationships with others are going to affect that in every way. So I'm going to give you 5 keys to relationships with other people. There's many, many things you can do to have great relationships with people, but I think the first thing, and before I tell you the first thing, these are going, you're going to see how this is built on your relationship with yourself, your relationship with spiritual things, to your relationships with others. And you may have heard these things before. I'm absolutely certain you've heard all of these things before because it's not rocket science. But are we applying them? Have we made them a habit? That's why it's good to hear them every day and get them in a little sound bite. So I'm going to give you 5. Number 1 is acceptance. In your relationship with others, if you want to have a great relationship with another person, you need to accept them where they are at. No judgment, no condemnation, no contempt, no criticism. Unless they ask and they're like, hey, I need help. Can you critique this essay I wrote, or can you give me some constructive criticism? Otherwise, people will put their walls up. And think about it for you. Do you want people to judge you, to condemn you, to criticize you? No, we don't like that. But how easy is it to do that with other people, especially people closest to us? It's so easy to say, oh my gosh, you didn't put the dishes away again, or you put the dishes away wrong, or that's not the way to load the dishwasher. Did you see this crumb here? It's been there all day from when you made the sandwich. And I've been giving you a chance all day to clean it up. All right. How is that going to work with your relationship? It's going to be, it's going to be crappy. It's going to be crappy. At least that's been my experience. I've done that, and it's been done to me. So here's the thing. The people that you choose to have in your life are doing the best they can with what they have. Maybe they didn't see the crumb. Maybe they got distracted. Maybe they thought there was something more important in life than that little crumb that was left on the counter. Maybe a child was crying in the front yard. Maybe the dog got out. Maybe there was a phone call. We want people to give us the benefit of the doubt. Let's give other people the benefit of the doubt. You can't change people's actions. All right, I'll tell you what happened this week with my mom. My mother is 80 years old. She has been smoking and drinking for at least 60 years, probably a pack a day, easily. We went to the doctor. She hasn't seen the doctor since before the lockdowns. And of course, he has to do a health history. So he asked her about smoking, and she's like, oh, half a pack a day. And he was a very nice guy, and I'm sure he knows that if she said a half a pack, it's probably a full pack. And then he's like, how long have you been smoking? And she started to say 30 years. All right, I'm 56 years old in a week. I'll be 56 years old. My mom was smoking while she was pregnant and before she was pregnant. So I know she wasn't smoking for 30 years, at least 60 years. So I mentioned it. I was like, Mom, I think that's closer to 60 years. And the doctor was amazing. He said, there's no judgment. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just gathering information so I know how to support you. If you've been smoking for 60 years, you might need some more B vitamins. And that really relaxed her. That made her feel like she was in a comfortable place. And do you think she's going to trust this doctor for him to say, okay? And this is what else he said. He's like, he did not tell her to stop smoking. He didn't say, we all know you shouldn't be smoking. He didn't need to say, we all know smoking is bad for you, because we know it. He didn't need to say it. But what he did say is he said, if you're going to smoke, you might as well enjoy it. Why have the extra stress of feeling guilty about it? So he had amazing acceptance, really, that I have not seen in many people. So acceptance is number one. Number two is boundaries. In order to have great relationships with people, you need to know your boundaries. You need to create environments for thriving. If you want to have a great relationship, maybe you don't want to hang out with somebody if you were sick all night, throwing up, you didn't sleep, you're cranky. You might want to create a boundary and say, hey, I want to let you know I'm not feeling well today. I'm not going to be talking to you because I need to go back to sleep. Create that safe space. We have boundaries in our life. We have the work boundaries, our people at work. We have our family boundaries, our friend boundaries. We do have categories of people. And in addition to creating a boundary for ourselves and being honest with people where we're at, sometimes you might need to create boundaries where certain people are not allowed. Sometimes there are people who always want to stir the pot, who always want to criticize you, who always want to put you down, who always want to give you those little digs and push your buttons. And it's okay to tell them, hey, I accept you. This is how you are. And, if you see something in me, you're telling me that. You can thank them for their honesty. Doesn't mean you need to agree with their opinion, but you can say, I will reflect on that. You don't have to get your defenses up. You can say, I'll reflect on that. That's a different viewpoint. Now that I think about it, it's expanding my viewpoint. So thank you for sharing that. I still stand by what I'm doing. And it's okay to extricate yourself from people that do that to you over and over again. If there's somebody that does that to you all the time, you don't need to hang around them. Even if it's a family member, create some boundaries. Maybe you have to see them every Thanksgiving. Doesn't mean you have to see them every other day of the year, unless they're living under your roof. But we can talk about that situation. Create boundaries for thriving. Create environments where everybody will thrive. Boundaries are okay. You can put a fence around your yard, and you can put a fence around your time and your space and your heart. When things were written on Torah scrolls in the Bible, one thing that represented a Torah scroll was the fence around the tabernacle that the Israelites had in the desert. And it looked like a Torah scroll. It was a big fence. They had a boundary. So boundaries are biblical. And if there are certain people that you feel like it's not doing you any good, it's not doing them any good, you can create some space and boundaries. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but sometimes you need to love them from afar. Does that make sense? Okay. And again, it's not a mean thing. It doesn't mean you're judging somebody or you're saying, I can't stand you. I don't want to see you ever again. You can do it in love. You can say, hey, if they want to come over to the house and say, hey, I'm sorry. Today is not a good time. It's not good for me today. You can love them from afar. Another extreme set of boundaries is another example. And I may have shared this on the last recording for relationships. My mom divorced when I was 3 years old or younger than 3 years old. And my biological father wanted to get back together. And she went over to the apartment and he wouldn't let her in because he had another woman there after he told her we should get back together. Now, there was physical and emotional abuse in the relationship anyway, but she created a big boundary and she left the state. She figured out, this is not good. This is not healthy. I cannot ever talk to this person again. She told her mom and dad, she said, hey, mom and dad, I am leaving the state with my daughter, and I'm not going to tell you where I am moving to because I don't want it to get out. He is very charming. He might get that information out of you. So that's an extreme set of boundaries, but that boundary probably saved her life. Um, so that's boundaries. Number 3, and this sounds easy, but for me, this is really hard. The number 3 key to relationships is listen. Learn how to listen. Develop the skill of listening. And it sounds easy, but try it. Try talking to somebody, listening to what they say, being really interested in them without saying, "Oh, me too. Oh, yeah, I like that too." Because then you're making it about yourself. You're not keeping it about them. If you can develop this skill, it will increase your income. It will increase your opportunities. It'll help your love life. It'll help your romance. It'll help your relationships with people in your family if you develop this skill and make it all about them and not about you. Honestly, most people do not receive that sort of listening. Most people feel like they're not heard. There is a book by Dale Carnegie. He's super, super famous. He has a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know, something like that. It's Dale Carnegie. But there's one story in there related to this where he talks about a party that he went to, and he was seated next to somebody, and he told nothing about himself, 0. He just listened to the other person. And he asked questions with the other person. And everything the other person would say, he was fully attentive and fully listening and saying, "Wow, I want to hear more about that. Okay, so wow, so you just said you did this, this, and this. What happened next?" Fully invested, fully attentive to the other person. And at the end of the whole party, the person that was being listened to told the host, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you set me next to him. And this was the best dinner party I had. He is an amazing conversationalist." And the funny thing is it was a one-way conversation. The listener wasn't being a conversationalist at all. He was just listening. It is super powerful. Practice it, practice it, practice it. And I'll be honest, I practice it. And then sometimes I find myself throwing in the, "Oh, me too," or, "Oh, this reminds me." And I got to catch myself. Sometimes I just want to listen to somebody and have them feel honored. So as you practice that skill, let me know how you're doing with it. Um, it's a challenge for me, but it is an amazing skill. And if somebody had listened to you the way this person at the dinner party was listened to, I mean, think about how that would make you feel. So practice that skill of listening. Number 3. So number 4, and you've heard this many, many, many times. I've said it many times. The number 4 skill is forgiveness. Forgiveness, even if the other person doesn't deserve it. If you forgive them, it doesn't mean what they did is okay. If you do not forgive, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. Forgiveness is releasing your own heart. Forgiveness is having a clean slate. Forgiveness is breaking the shackles. Forgiveness is digging up the bitter root. Forgive. If you're going to do one assignment tonight, write down the people you need to forgive. Write down the people that you have a bitter root for and forgive them. Even if they're dead, even if they're not there with you, even if they're no longer in your life, you can pray and ask God to help you. And you can say, I forgive you, to whoever the person is. And just say Jane. And you can practice and you say, Jane, I forgive you. This is what happened. This hurt my heart, but I am not holding on to it anymore. I completely forgive you. I release you. You don't owe me a thing. You don't even owe me an apology. I mean, don't say that. You don't even owe me an apology. But if you forgive them completely, that means you're not expecting anything from them. They don't have to apologize. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. But if I forgive them, they should at least say they're sorry. Well, maybe that's true. But let's go back to number one. Let's go back to acceptance. People are doing the best they can with where they're at. Forgive them, even if they don't say they're sorry. Forgive them, even if they do it again. If they keep doing it again, put your boundary in. If they're there and you share and you're like, gosh, this really, really hurt me. I was holding something in my heart against you. For you doing that, I forgive you. But hey, can you forgive me, Jane, for holding this thing against you? I would love it if you forgive me. And maybe you did forgive Jane. Maybe she's no longer in your life, but it keeps coming up. Gosh, I thought I forgave Jane for doing that to me. And then the memory comes up and you're like, oh, forgive her again. Then maybe the memory will come up in another week. Forgive her again for that same thing that you forgave her for 10 times previously. Maybe 6 months down the road and the memory will come up and you're like, I thought I got rid of it. Thought I was completely free in my heart. Oh my gosh, why is it still bothering me? Forgive again. You have to keep forgiving until that bitter root is destroyed. If you have a garden, and if you have weeds in the garden, and we do have a garden and we do have weeds, if you take scissors and just cut off the weeds, right at the top of the ground, or mow it over with the lawnmower, you're not going to see the weed. But what's going to happen? And I know Grace is here, and her husband is a professional farmer. You didn't get rid of the weeds. It's going to grow back up and it's going to be even stronger. Then if you cut it up again, those roots are going to keep growing because you didn't dig it up at the root. So keep forgiving and keep forgiving until you get rid of the root. You want to pull up the weeds and get the entire root. So that is forgiveness. It's a process. It's not a one and done. And it's cleaning our own heart. It's getting rid of the bitter roots. And it never means that what the other person did was okay. It doesn't condone anything. I have forgiven my father for mistreating my mom. I've forgiven my father for not being in my life. It took me years of forgiving him and forgiving him and forgiving him and thinking I already forgave him. But But that's okay. This is part of the human journey. And finally, number 5, the number 5 key is you reap what you sow. And I'm going to call this selfishness. The 5th key is selfishness. Be selfish. Now, that might trigger some people. What do you mean be selfish? I thought we were supposed to be unselfish. All right. The airplane analogy. If you have a child, the airplane's having trouble, the oxygen masks come down. You're going to put it on yourself first. You're going to do yourself first. And then you will have what you need to help the people next to you. Selfishness is not bad unless you're using it to neglect or hurt people. I think everybody eats food every day. We take care of ourself. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. And you can, it's trying to get this concept down for you. When you forgive somebody, in a way that's selfish because you're going to have a free heart. You're going to get something back. When you create a boundary, you're going to protect yourself and other people. When you give acceptance, when you refuse to judge somebody and criticize them and condemn them, you will get that back. Don't we want to be accepted? Don't we want sometimes a fence around us to keep away the negativity? Don't we want somebody to listen to us? Don't we want to be forgiven when we mess up? Yeah, we want all those things. I want those things. I'm pretty sure everybody wants those things. So when you give to somebody else, in a way, you're being selfish because you are giving it to you as well. When you give acceptance, you're going to receive it back. I am changing the definition that the world uses for selfish. The world has taken so many words and turned them upside down and made them to mean something different than what they really mean. So think about when you give the acceptance. Think about it that you're going to get that in return. And think about, how do I want to be treated? The golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated. That's in a way that's selfish. People could say that's selfish. Why are you treating somebody that way? Because that's what I want. Well, that's selfish. Well, maybe it is selfish, but it also gives a benefit to the person that you are treating kindly. It's a two-way street. So this form of selfishness benefits you and the other person. So that's new stuff. Um, Kindness, right? Yeah. So in the chat, if you want to mention anything, I mean, is this a new way to look at selfishness? If you disagree, that's fine. I have no judgment if you disagree. Um, but this is basically it. So I'm just going to recap. And Monique has a question, so I can't wait to hear her question. But basically, these are not the only keys to relationships, but accept Accept other people, and yourself, of course. Put some boundaries, protect yourself, and it'll benefit others as well. Number 3, develop that skill of listening. Don't make it all about you. And you will actually receive just you I can't tell you the treasures that you'll receive just by listening. Number 4 is forgive, 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 forgive. And finally, number 5, you're going to reap what you sow. You will receive something. So if nothing else, say, I'm going to get something back for being kind. I'm going to get something back for loving. And we're kind of wired that way as humans. So those are the 5 keys that I'm giving you for relationships with others. This ends our relationship series for July. And thank you guys. Thank you for all of your support and encouragement. It's definitely helped me. And I love you guys. So, Monique, go ahead and unmute. Oh my gosh, I've missed you. It's so good to see you.
Hi. I've missed you too. I just had another commitment on Thursday night, so I've really been missing you guys. But I was listening to the other one you had on about relationships, and I was like, wow, so powerful. And so I really needed to hear
Mm.
again what you've been sharing. Your insights are, you're a very wise woman. Your insights have been very, very, very helpful. So for tonight, what you mentioned about selfishness, that has been a challenge for me because the grooming I have is you don't put your oxygen mask on first. You put it on the other person because if you do, it's selfish. You're not supposed to think of yourself first. And it's been a challenge for me. But what I'm realizing more and more as the years go by is if I don't take care of myself, I won't be able to take care of anyone else. If I don't selfishly say, I need this time because I've had some challenges health wise, and I realize there's sometimes I just need to rest. There's sometimes I just need to not be running here, there, and everywhere. There's sometimes I just need to step away and take the time for myself and say, okay, I'm not going to be available for a while. And as I've been doing that, I feel like I'm starting to really get what I need. And then I have the energy and I have whatever else to go, do something else, like do a charity walk or whatever the case is. So it's a new way of looking at it that is not the norm at all. Because I was taught selfishness is bad. It's a bad thing. And you shouldn't be selfish at all. You should be completely selfless. But obviously, like you mentioned, you need to eat food, take sustenance, nutrition. Otherwise, your body expires because it needs that. So thank you for talking about this. It's very important and we need to hear it.
Mm. Thank you, Monique. And it's, I mean, there's so much I've had to unlearn. And just think about it. If you didn't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, both you and the person with you could die. Like both of you would be dead, hypothetically. And, if we're talking in spiritual, biblical ways, was Jesus selfish? Jesus gave a lot. Was he selfish? Did he ever say, you know what? I'm not healing any more people today. I need to step away. Yes, he did say that in the Bible. He's like, nope, done healing for today. I got to go. He had times where he had to get away from everybody for himself to get recharged. So, yeah, he did it. And I don't think anybody would call Jesus selfish, but he did what he needed to for himself so he could go out and serve others. If he did not do that, he would not have served as effectively because he knew where his source of power and energy was. He needed that time alone with God. He needed those boundaries. So Yeah, selfishness has been turned upside down. It's gotten a bad rap. Just like people that think, "Oh, you can't be rich and spiritual, you have to be poor." But the Bible says, "Take care of the poor." How can you take care of the poor if you're the one that's poor? It's selfish to be poor in that way because you are poor and other people have to take care of you. How about you go ahead and become wealthy so you're not a burden on anybody else, and then you can take care of the poor. And again, I'm not saying anything for people that are in dire circumstances. Some people cannot work, some people have mental or physical issues, and they are truly in need. And um, I believe that we should help out where we can, which is why I am praying and helping and struggling to share with you everything that helped me get out of debt so that you can get out of debt, so that you can be one of those people that are free and turning around and helping somebody else. So,
Can I say something now?
absolutely, Gloria.
Okay, well, you're sharing your heart with us. So I'm saying that you're teaching us from your own experience. And I like that a lot. That means you're not a selfish person, you're a giving person. Okay, so regard to some of the things that you were talking about, acceptance, about not wanting to be criticized and to be, I've learned to deal with that. It took me quite a while to understand this, that there are certain ways when you talk to somebody, it affects them emotionally and otherwise. I've learned that with my daughter, and I've tried to use it at work. As soon as somebody starts to criticize or say something that I don't like, and usually in a group of women, you will have other people who are more vocal and some more quiet. So as soon as that type of behavior starts, what I would do, I would just walk away before it escalate. Sometimes it might be towards me or to somebody else. Like usually in the nighttime, because I used to work 4 to 12 in the nighttime, sometimes we might finish 11:30. You're supposed to go and work somewhere else. Sometimes we don't go. We congregate together in the ladies' washroom and talk. There's a bench right there, one bench. You cannot seat everybody, but there are some specific people who usually want to sit down. Some of them are like half your age and they want to sit down. Sometimes you just want to take the things out of your locker and go. And there would be a fight over it. Can I get my things out of my locker? Oh, I can't move. Oh, I can't do. And then a fuss would start. So you know what I would do? Wait until they finish talking and talking and talking. Then I would go quietly to my locker. Sometimes I'm there in the washroom hiding out. They don't know that I'm there and I'm hearing everything. And when I hear that they're quiet, then I come out of where I am and do what I have to do, more than have a fuss with them every night, have a fuss. Can I go in my locker? Can I go in my locker? Excuse me. Oh boy. Dealing with ladies is not fun at the end of the night when you want to go. When you don't have a ride, maybe you might have to take the bus and they're driving or whatever. Or if you get in a ride, you want to just hurry and go, because then maybe the person getting a ride with might say, no, I don't like waiting. I have another job to go to in the morning, so I have to go home and get sleep and so on. Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, you sound like a wise woman, and I like how you mentioned, sometimes you just need to remove yourself. And I like how you said you walked away. You created the boundary. You were like, this There's something about it. I need to do some self-care. I don't need to be in that situation. And you created your boundary. So I don't want to trigger people by saying selfish. We could say self-care. We could say self-care. But if don't be afraid if somebody calls you selfish. You do need to um, give yourself what you need so that you have the resources to love others.
Yes, and then sometimes there are some people who if you say a word to them, they just get angry right away, even if they are in the wrong. So what I would wait sometime at the end of the night or when the person is alone by themselves, and I would say, you know, you did something tonight that was nice. You did so and so and so.
Mm.
Or then I'm extra kind to that person, extra kind to that person. And then the person realized that they were wrong and say, you know, Gloria, so and so and so and so. I'm so sorry I did so and so.
Mm.
But I would not confront them when there's a crowd there. I would wait until the right time comes. I confront them.
All right, that's powerful, Gloria. And I'm just gonna add on to that. I love how you said you're not going to confront them. And this is something that I've heard many times. Praise in public, critique in private. So if you're going to say something about a person in public, make sure that it's good. You don't want to be one of those gossipers always saying bad things. And if you have something that's not so great that you need to talk to somebody about, do it in private. And I love how you did that, Gloria, how you edified them and you said, hey, this is something that you did that was good. And that kind heart makes people feel accepted and safe. And to be honest, if somebody is very negative, gosh, imagine what it's like for them to live with themselves in that negativity. There's another saying that hurting people hurt others. If someone's hurting, it's very easy for them to lash out. If somebody is very good and secure in their life and everything's going well, they're not going to hurt somebody else. But if you find people that are very negative and saying hurtful comments, there's something deeper. They're probably really struggling.
Okay, I want to find out, how about somebody who boasts, always come to work and boast. I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. Oh, you should see my garden. It has this, it has that. Oh, I mowed the lawn today. Oh, I went swimming and I've reached this level and so I'm so good and this and that. Oh my gosh. But I know in this case, the person is married, but maybe there's something there that is not going right or something like that. So the person comes to work to look for acceptance. That's what I feel, acceptance. And it's always boasting or showing up about something. I know this individual that always did that. Oh, I went swimming today. Oh, and I'm learning so good. I'm so this, I'm so that. She never asks anybody, well, how are you doing today? Are you okay? Because I remember one time this individual was coming to work and actually drove under a truck. Under a truck. She didn't die. And we were saying, how could this happen to you? I think maybe you passed out or something like. She didn't want to discuss it. But we were all concerned about her because we heard about the accident and we knew it was her. She couldn't hide that from us because it happened very near to work. And until this day, we don't know what happened to her. She hid that from us.
Yeah.
You know, but we were concerned about her well-being.
It I mean, definitely sounds like she has a great need to look good, and that she's very, very insecure. And what often happens with people that do that, they're boasting all about themselves because they're insecure. They're hungry. They're like somebody in the desert dying of thirst and nobody's giving them water. And this is their way of asking for water. So, but when they do that, people get turned off and they don't want to listen to it. So then it makes them even thirstier. It makes it even worse. Nobody is ever talking, asking how they're doing. So they're saying more, and then people are ignoring more. And it's definitely a cry from somebody that's extremely insecure. And as frustrating as it is, because I think we've all met people like this, or even been like this at certain times in our life. But to go ahead and do step number 3 and listen. This is a great opportunity to practice the listening skill. Go to lunch with this person. Oh, you went swimming? Where did you go? How was that? How did you like it? And get the person's already talking. And if you model that behavior of listening, it's like giving the person in the desert dying of thirst, it's like giving them fresh, cool water. And when they've had the water and they know that they're not dying of thirst, then, and only then, and it may take a while, may take a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months of practicing the listening skill, a light bulb will go off and be like, wow, what is it about this person who they're going to turn it around and they're going to imitate the behavior that you've modeled. So if you're listening, they're going to start to get their esteem built up, and then they're going to start to say, "Hey, well, tell me about you. Tell me what you were doing." But it's not something that's going to happen overnight, and um, but yeah, we're all frail humans that are imperfect. But if you listen to that person, as hard as it may be, because sometimes it's like, oh, why are you always talking about yourself?
Well, what happened? I listened to her, but I sort of understand what is wrong. But I don't know if other people know, and I never say to other people, well, this is what is wrong, because she has like I think it's 2 grown daughters, and they're like competition between them as to which one she loves more than the other one. So one is living nearer to her and one is living in another province. That's what we call it here in Canada, province. And that one, I think she pays more attention to that one. And I think her husband have something to do with what's going on with her at work. What's
Well,
going on with her at work.
in any case, we're probably not going to be able to solve all of her deep
Yeah,
problems,
yeah.
but sometimes just listening is like, giving her the cool drink of water. So you're amazing, Gloria, and I just really appreciate your heart and you asking questions and concern over people, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's right about the 9 o'clock hour, so I am going to go ahead and close out. If you have any questions that you want to ask off camera, you can wait a few moments. But thank you again. And if you are listening to the recording on YouTube, definitely put a comment in if anything's helped you. Share, subscribe, do whatever you're supposed to do on YouTube. But I'm grateful that you all are here. And I just pray this carries forward to your life, improves your life, improves the life of others, and improves relationships. So thank you again.